Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. This is James with Urbandale United, and I'm here with our secretary, Krisa. And we have some really amazing guests who also joined us for our Zoom tonight. We'll start with one everyone knows, Doyle Lawhon. You've probably seen him with one of our from a lot of our meetings actually in the past with the City of Dallas code compliance. He has info on our neighborhood statistics and any news from code compliance. We're also joined by Senior Corporal Ekena with the City of Dallas Police Department with information, any information you'd like to share from the police department, maybe some crime stats. New, really exciting to touch on the planning and development section, which is the Mr. Michael Wade and Patrick Blades, and they're here with the City of Dallas Planning and Development Department, basically to introduce their new zoning reform. Again, we are Urbandale United. Our neighborhood is in a southeast section of Dallas, in the Parkdale-Urbandale section of Dallas, and borders around Buckner to the east and Forney to the north, Sain to the south. And the west is kind of funny because it starts at Longview where Forney meets Longview, and then it comes down Military and goes south on Bisbee. So it's kind of like a weird, little weird route you could take there for that one. But Urbandale was established in 1926, and we were established in a couple of years ago. What was it, Krisa? 2023, 24, somewhere around there.
Around there.
Since then, we've had a lot of events, Easter events, Christmas events, Halloween events. Most notably, our Easter event is where we have at Urbandale Park. We also have a beautification agreement with Urbandale Park. It's our main park in Urbandale, where we do have I think it's several cleanups per year, and that's also where we hold our Easter event. We usually have about 100 people out there with the Easter bunny, taking pictures, finding Easter eggs. It's a great time. But we try to do a lot in our community. I was born and raised here, and Krisa got suckered into coming here. But she's doing a fantastic job. So I'm going to let her talk about a little about what's been happening with Urbandale United so far.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I will just share my screen 1 second. I wanted to show everybody our new website. So can everybody see that, the Urbandale United? Good?
Yes.
Okay. So we're at urbandaleunited.org is our new website, and it's a little bit about us. We have the links. You can go here to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. These are the board of directors. I believe Marina's on as well. So Marina Paz is our other board member. And then we have everything in English and Spanish as much as we possibly can. We have here something I wanted to highlight. So we got a mural at Urbandale Park. We got a grant award, and this was through Dallas Code Compliance and Keep Dallas Beautiful. And the funds were through the Public Center for Innovation, Bloomberg Public Center for Innovation at Johns Hopkins was the grant funding. And our artist was Gaddafi Branch, who also does the walls of Pleasant Grove. So when we saw this wall when we were out there cleaning in Urbandale Park, it had peeling paint on it. It had tags on it a lot, and it was just really ugly to look at. And we decided we're going to do something about it. So that was just completed last month. So I wanted to highlight it. If you haven't had a chance to stop by there, it's at 4000 Lomax in Dallas at Urbandale Park. And it is really, really great in person. Like, you have to go out and see it. The picture doesn't really do it justice, but it looks amazing. And I put together a video also on our YouTube, which you can link through our website. And it tells you about the whole process from start to finish. We also got a bulletin board out there now as part of the grant. So we can post about cleanups and all the things that we're doing in Urbandale Park. And we got Parks and Rec was kind enough to give us a brand new picnic table and trash can to go along with our updates. So really great things happening at Urbandale Park. And then I also wanted to take a moment to highlight this is on our page. You can go to the Urbandale Pause section. So this is a newly formed subcommittee of Urbandale United. So Urbandale Pause stands for Pet Assistance, Welfare, and Support. And we are going to be focusing here on our core focuses of lost and found pet reunification, rescue and adoption partnerships, community education, volunteer and neighborhood response network that we're forming. So we have a lot of people. We already have one microchip scanner. We're looking to get some more, maybe with possibly with a grant, donations, fundraising. And we're just really looking to find and help the pets of Urbandale because we have a lot around here. But you do not have to be a part of Urbandale to join us. So if anybody would like to volunteer, donate, support, share in any way, just get in touch with us. We would love to have you involved in it. And
Yeah, actually, our
also,
two rescues that we had yesterday were from both from Parkdale.
yes, so we were focusing on neighboring neighborhoods to just kind of the Southeast Dallas area, wherever we can help. But of course, prioritizing around us as we get going and building a bigger network of volunteers. And my last little thing is if you go here to get involved, you can sign up to volunteer with us. So the pause, the new subcommittee is on there as well. And you can just kind of say what you'd like to be involved in, and we will get back with you. So that is all that I had. Let me unshare. Oh, okay. Thanks for listening. Hand it back over to James.
Okay, well, I was just going to let our speakers do what they do best to introduce the topics at hand. I'm not sure who wanted to go first today, so let's hear from Doyle. Always a pleasure to hear from Doyle, specifically about what's going on with code compliance.
All right. Good evening, everyone. All right. Y'all can hear me, correct?
Yeah, but we can't see you.
Yes.
Okay. You need me to put my video on? I'll do the
It
video.
doesn't matter. You don't have to.
Okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. But yeah. So how's everybody doing? Just real quick, for anybody that's new, unaware, code compliance. We deal with city ordinance violations. There's approximately about, in the city of Dallas alone, there's approximately 1,000 possible code compliance violations. And out of those 1,000, it kind of boils down to about a top 11 or so that people commit on a regular basis. Keep in mind, as code compliance, we only deal with private property. So we deal with violations on private property, whether that's commercial or residential. So whether that's your house or your business, that's what we deal with. If it's on public property, more than likely it's going to be dealt with by a different department. So code compliance is private property and commercial and residential. So real quick, what I normally do is go over the number of violations in your specific area. So the Urbandale neighborhood is, for code compliance, is considered Census Tract 85. Police would probably call it by a certain beat, which their beats and our census tracts don't always align perfectly. But Census Tract 85 is a little bit, probably, I guess, a mid-sized tract, maybe. But typically, over the last year or two, I've noticed the violations have gone down. I don't know if that's a combination of people not calling in, or maybe just, people are keeping their overall keeping their properties in better maintenance. But either way, it's a good thing in that the numbers are lower. So for the month of June, there were a total of 13 violations, which wasn't much. I mean, if you go back to, I think the last time we had a meeting was December, and it was 14. And then September of last year was 49. So anyway, 13 for the month of June. High weeds came in at number one with four violations. That's anytime the grass or weeds in your yard are 12 inches or taller. Number two was litter with 3 violations. Litter is basically anything on your property that's on the ground in a discarded manner. So that like I said, that could be a thousand different things, whether it's tires, uh, beer bottles, you name it, whatever, just discarded, paper, trash, whatever. So anything basically on the ground in a discarded manner, can be considered litter. That was three. Number three was bulk trash. That came in at two violations. That's anytime, once a month, the city of Dallas, picks up people's bulk trash, which is their large trash items that won't fit in a waste receptacle. They do that as a courtesy to the citizens once a month, and you have um, a full week each month, depending on your zip code. You may be the first week or you may be the fourth week, whatever. So, and it always starts on that Monday. So whatever that full week is, it's that first Monday of a full week. So if the month starts on a Wednesday, that's a dead week because it has to be on the first week that starts with a Monday. That'll start your month out. Um, but bulk trash, and that's either, you can put your bulk trash out as early as the Thursday before that Monday. And but if you put it out and then you can put it out that Thursday before all the way up to that Sunday night, sanitation can come anytime between Sunday through Friday of that next week. If they don't come and then you put your trash out, or if they come Monday morning and you put your bulk trash out Monday afternoon, well, guess what? That's a late set out, so that's a violation. It can't sit there for a whole month. So there was two violations, whether it was set out too early or set out too late. Number four, the next four is just going to be one each. Accessory outside storage. That's anytime you have something outdoors on your property that's not designed to be stored outdoors. So that's going to be a number of different things. That's going to be your neighbor that keeps a refrigerator on their front porch. That's going to be your neighbor with their lazy boy recliner on the front porch, or that's going to be your neighbor with the washing machine in the backyard. Just items that are out there, for a period of more than 24 hours that are not designed to be stored outdoors. So, like I said, it can be a lot of different items, but those are some of the more common ones we see. The caveat to that I always like to give is a barbecue grill. Barbecue grills are designed to be stored outdoors, but in the city of Dallas, the front yard is kind of considered, like a sanctuary. So you can barbecue outside all day long in the front yard, but at the end of the day, when you're done, put it back to the side or rear of the house. That's where it is properly stored. If it remains out in the front, then that's going to be accessory outside storage. So all these are one each. Number five is illegal land use. Illegal land use is anytime you are using your property for something that's not zoned for. If you have a residential property and you're operating a business out of your house, which is legal to do, mind you. However, if that business that you are operating out of your house has now become the primary focus and taken over the primary use of your residence, well, then that is now a code violation. So, whether that's, you may have a salon, a barbershop or something, in a room in the back, or, we had a person, actually, I think it was in the Urbandale neighborhood recently, um, who had like a swimming pool and had a whole business, where, she was instructing children and had signs up and everything else. So we had to make contact with her, and person had been doing it for about 30 years and had not been, no one noticed it till finally somebody, I guess, drove down the alley, saw the signs, called in, and we made contact with her. And obviously, she was upset. She'd been doing it for 30 years and never had the city say anything to her about it. So, let me back up. That was not an Urbandale neighborhood. It was a different one, a different neighborhood. But anyway, so that was just, that had become a major issue with parking and stuff. You'd have 10 or 12, people bring their children, and like I said, it was blocking an alley, part of the street. So for several years, nobody called in. Finally, someone called in and made us aware of it. So, but that's an example of illegal land use. Uh, Number six, junk motor vehicle. Junk motor vehicle in the city of Dallas. Anytime you have a vehicle on your property, on your private property, commercial or residence, it has to be operable, meaning that you can start it and it can go forward and in reverse. So, if you have a vehicle on your property that does not operate, then, you put it out of sight, put it in the garage, um, or, somewhere where, out of sight. So, if it is visual from the public right of way, then that does constitute a code violation. Um, Number seven, was one we don't see too often, was, standing water. Standing water is just maybe you have a low spot in your yard or something like that where water collects, and then especially like in the summertime, get a lot more mosquitoes, so that, you're far more apt to have whether it's West Nile or whatever. So, standing water, you always want to make sure your level is your property is level, so you don't have any standing water issues. So that's one we rarely see, but and of course it was only one, but yeah, those are like I said, some of the normal top 10 ones there. Mind if I go over a few others real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so just for anyone who's not aware, so we covered grass, we covered litter. Um, One we didn't go over is what we call vegetation obstruction, and that's anytime in the city of Dallas, if you have trees or vegetation that grows over the sidewalk or over your alley, they got to be cut. Over the sidewalk has to be cut at least 8 feet high, and over the alley at least 15 feet high. So, keep in mind, in the city of Dallas, your responsibility as a property owner is from the front curb to one half of the alley or easement, whatever you may have on your property. So from the front curb to one half of the alley is your responsibility to maintain. And that's whether you have a parkway in the front or not. And a parkway is it's a little grassy area sometimes in between the sidewalk and the curb. Now the city built that, the city owns that. However, it's your responsibility to maintain, as well as the sidewalk. So sidewalk is also property owner's responsibility. Sometimes, depending on the district you live in and the city council member, if they have any discretionary funds, sometimes the city will offer like a 50% program where they'll put in 50% on repairing a sidewalk, and then you put in another 50, and you can get it done because obviously the city knows that that's a very expensive fix sometimes, but not all the times do we have that, but just keep in mind if you ever do have that issue, then call your city council member and see if they have anything available. Parking. Even though it's your private property, all vehicles in the city of Dallas must be parked on an approved surface. That's gravel, asphalt, or concrete. They cannot be parked on grass or dirt. So that is a violation. So, pretty simple one. We call that parked on unapproved surface, or POUS for short. And then another one is fences. All fences must be well maintained and in a vertical position. Any incomplete fencing is not allowed. So, like I said, you don't have to fence your whole property all the way around. You may only, for whatever reason, want to fence one side, right, or just the rear. Well, you can do that, but you can't have gaps in it. So it needs to be one full section all the way down, or wherever you have that fencing, whatever side it is. The city does allow you up to a 12-inch lean, which a foot is a lot. But we do allow that a 12-inch 12 inches or more. So really it's 11 inches because at 12 inches you're in violation. Um, Also, address numbers on your property have to be in a contrasting color. So if you got a white house, you don't want white numbers on your house. You want something of a darker color that can be seen by emergency vehicles from the street. So, and I believe the ordinance, I think it's 3 inches in height. I could be wrong about that, a little rusty on that, but I think it's 3 inches in height. Um, all if you have whatever surfaces you have, let's say you have a wood frame house, you know, uh, painting and siding need to be all surfaces need to be protected with a finish to prevent rot and decay, some sort of weatherproofing finish, paint or something else. So, and that pretty much covers it. Those, with the violations already mentioned, and those right there are the top 11 violations out of the possible 1,000 that people can possibly commit in the city of Dallas. So, any questions? I'll be happy to address them.
I had two questions, Doyle.
Yes.
Something that is a reoccurring issue that has happened to us. I know other people because they've reached out and asked about this. But what happens? Why are some 311 requests closed when residents believe the problem still exists? And how should residents challenge or reopen those cases?
Okay. Excellent question. We get that all the time. So
I
there's a
think so.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for that. So a lot of times, I just dealt with a situation like that out today in the Kleberg area. Um, a lady called and complained about someone with high grass. Well, when she went out there early last month, the grass was high. 4 days later, when the inspector went out there, they had cut the grass within its 4 days, not knowing that she had put in a case. They just went out there and cut their grass like they normally do, however often that is. He gets out there 4 days later, the grass is cut in the front and the back, so he closes it, no violation. Well, she doesn't drive back by until a couple days ago. Well, guess what? It's been a month now where the grass is tall again. So she complained that the her service request was closed out as and the problem wasn't taken care of. Well, it actually was. But if you wait a month, anybody's grass is going to grow back. So it's a new violation. So not the her original violation was abated, was fixed. Now this is a completely new and separate violation. So that's one of the ways that happens. Another one thing I like to tell people is please, please, please put some sort of contact information in there, a name and a phone number, because you would not believe how often we get the wrong address. People call in and they think they're reporting the right address and they're not. So as inspectors, we get there, we don't know which address you're reporting. You say it's the third house from the end. Well, on what corner are you talking about, right? Or it's the red trim house, and four houses on that block has red trim, right? And you give an address that doesn't. We get so many calls on addresses that don't exist. They put in an address, the address doesn't exist. So we get there, we're trying to figure out exactly what this violation is, which property it pertains to, and we can't call you and find out because you didn't leave contact information. So let me clarify something very quickly. We are not allowed to give out your information. So we cannot tell if you call in about someone whose grass is tall, right? And we get there and we make contact with that individual. We cannot tell them that, you know, Jane Doe at, across the street called in. We cannot tell them that. If we did that, we would lose our job. I guarantee that it's kind of hard to get fired from the city, but that's probably one of the things that, that could be a termination offense because that's a possible retaliatory situation where you were possibly putting someone's life in danger, giving away that information that they were the complainant. So I personally would never sacrifice my career or someone else's safety to do that. I'm not saying, employees of the city of Dallas haven't done that before. They may have. I just don't know too many people who would be willing to sacrifice their job, their career, and someone's safety for doing that. So, I think you can feel relatively safe in giving your name and number because trust me, it is confusing a lot of the times, and you may honestly believe you put in an address correct, and the information you put in makes sense to you because you placed it. But you got to understand someone else is receiving that and they're trying to infer what you said. And sometimes it's just very difficult. So, and I'll be honest with you, in the 5 years I've been doing this, the overwhelming percentage of the time when I get that complaint that the case was closed with no violation, probably the overwhelming majority of the time it was worked properly, but there's just some other reason, either the address was incorrect or something, right? Right. Now, there are the few times where the inspector just didn't do their job correctly. I openly admit that. And we address that accordingly. So I promise you in those cases it is addressed properly. But overwhelmingly it's due to some level of confusion in the way it was placed in, address, something like that, or maybe like the case I previously mentioned, it was abated early on, and then a couple weeks later, when you drive back by, guess what? Well, they got more litter in the yard again, right? Well, that's a new violation. That's not your original one. So I hope I didn't go overboard there with the explanation, but hopefully that covers that.
No, that was great.
Okay.
You always explain things really well.
No, thank you.
And
Thank you. I'll try.
the only other question I had, and maybe if you quickly touch on this, because this is what some of the neighbors have asked me to ask you. Apparently, it's
Okay.
it's an issue down here. But what can be done about vacant or like abandoned, burned, unsecured, or chronically neglected properties, especially those properties when the owner cannot easily be located? I guess there's a
Okay.
lot of houses here that are for sale, and then the
Okay.
weeds grow, and then they send out
Yeah.
some notice, but no one's there to get the notice. So
Right.
what,
So,
what do we-
uh, another excellent question, very detailed answer, and I won't be able to probably satisfy you on this.
okay.
But we get a lot. Well, there's a lot of properties throughout the city that where the owner has passed or something, and then you have to try to find someone who has some level of responsibility, some person next of kin or something that can take responsibility for that property. So it's a search. We got to contact. We have a specific person at the city, a title examiner that researches that for us. And so then we have to try to, a lot of times we have to, if it's within reason, we'll drive to wherever this person, their address is. We'll try to make contact with them, talk to them in person. We'll send them letters. A lot of times with that, it's very difficult and time consuming. And a lot of times it ends in multiple liens over and over again on a property because there's just no one that steps up to take responsibility for it, or there just isn't anyone there for it. And and it takes years of liens and whether it's closures on the property because people break in or something like that, and we have to go close it and reclose it and close it, and reclose it again. Um, but let's say all that said, we do have, they just started recently, and I'm not that familiar with it, but there's like a vacant property registration that that the city has now, where I think that, like I said, I can't give you the full details because I'm not in the field and not working that particular. Um, but there is a vacant property registration now where we're trying to get basically whether it's a vacant lot, there's a vacant lot registration, and there's a vacant property, whether it's a business or residence, and we're trying to get every known property we can come in contact with that is vacant. We're trying to put them on a registry so we can keep tabs on all of them and try to, for lack of a better term, get a handle on it, on a larger scale. So that's
Okay.
recent, within the last 6 to 8 months, I think. So we are getting better at it. It's a work in progress, but all I can say is just please, please, please call it in, and then because we have a limited number of inspectors, and they have a lot of work on in their daily caseload, and it's just hard for us proactively to get out there and see everything that's out there. It's just impossible. So by all means call it in, and then wherever that area is, that inspector is, it goes directly to them automatically through the system. It's routed to them, and then they don't have a choice. They have to show up there, right? And it could be
Right.
something that they've driven around the block of for the last 2 years and never been on that particular street, that particular block, because they never got a call over there, right? So, but now they're there, we're aware of it, and we can get started on it. So hopefully that
Perfect.
helps.
Thank
I
you so
apologize.
much, Doyle.
Yeah.
Man, that's great. We got to move on. Unfortunately, I have a million questions I'll probably ask you in private. But
Okay.
next, Senior Corporal Ekena with the City of Dallas Police Department, who is a new guest of ours anyway. And I know, and if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I think senior corporals can be NPOs. Are you an NPO as well, or?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm NPO.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. You have the floor.
All right. So basically, what I did is I just pulled the crime stats for the last 30 days for your specific neighborhood.
Okay.
And then what I got from that was basically I got 4 assaults, which were all family violence related. So it could be just family members, dating, stuff like that. There was one arson, and we don't get a lot of these, so I actually pulled up the report to read it. And this one was also kind of family violence related. It was someone was getting kicked out of the house, and they threw their stuff out, and then the person came back and burned the stuff, which then caused part of the structure to be on fire too. So that's where the arson came from. There were 2 BMVs, which is basically a burglar of a motor vehicle, just someone breaking into cars. There was 1 burglary of a habitation, 1 criminal mischief, which is basically just property damage, 1 deadly conduct, 1 dog bite, so someone just got bit by a dog. There was 1 DWI arrest.
Someone's dog, or was it a street dog, or?
I'd have to go and double check on
Okay.
that one. But yeah, there was a 1 DWI arrest, 1 stolen vehicle, 1 recovered vehicle. So basically, they just found a stolen vehicle, or recovered one. 2 thefts and 1 warrant arrest. So that's what I had for the last 30 days. And then I also wanted to tell you guys about a program they've been pushing called the Fusus program, which basically what it is if you have like security cameras, ring doorbells, anything outside of your house, there's this program where you can register those cameras with the city of Dallas. And what that does is basically it lets us know that you have cameras and where they're pointed at. And it has like in the database, it has your contact information. So let's say there's a crime that happens, in front of your house. Instead of detectives having to come out to the scene and knock on doors randomly looking for cameras, they'll be able to pull up that address and see which cameras are around, and then they can email you privately and ask like, hey, if you have this on camera, do you mind sending it to me? And then they can send you a link so you can basically upload your footage directly to the detective. And that also it keeps it's a little more discreet, so then you don't have police knocking on your door, you don't have your neighbors seeing that you're talking to police, stuff like that. It's little more discreet, and then it also saves time for the detectives, so they don't have to go physically out looking for the cameras. So that's something I have a form with a QR code. I can actually email it to you guys, and then if you wanted to send it out, that's something they're pushing. And
Okay. Yeah.
then the other thing is Southeast in general. The BMVs have been going up slightly. So I just want to basically remind everybody, take your valuables out of your car when you leave it. Make sure you lock it, take your keys with you, or if you park in a dark place, see if it's possible to park under like a more well-lit area, just stuff like that to help prevent stuff like that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Senior Corporal Ekena? Anybody? Okay, just
Yeah, I do actually. Can you just
Sure.
briefly touch on a common thing of like when to call 311 versus 911 kind of
Yeah,
thing?
sure. Yeah, so basically a 911 is like something's happening right now. Like you need police to respond right now. Someone's in danger, just the thing is ongoing. 311 is more like we have this problem, it's not really going on right now, but we'd like it addressed, right? So if let's say you have a neighbor that constantly plays loud music, but they're not currently doing it right now, you can put in a 311, and then we can go out and we can talk. We do this all the time where we go out and we talk to them and just let them know, like, hey, there's been complaints, you need to keep it down. Um, because generally the 311s, you'll put them in and we might get to them, like we might receive them and get to them like a day or two later. So that's 311s definitely are not something like, if it's happening now, 311's not really going to help you out. It's anything ongoing is 911, something that's like more of a minor thing and can be pushed off a couple days. That's when 311 you want to do that.
Thank
hmm.
you. Appreciate it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that was our one of our main questions or concerns that we've had with the poll, people reaching out to us. Um, Also, is there a common? You said that vehicle theft, right, was on the rise, or is there a common location, a time of day, uh, anything that can people need to watch out for, or
Yeah, so basically BMVs. Basically that's just people breaking into vehicles and taking
okay,
stuff out. When I read the reports, I see a lot of it where there'll be someone just walking down the street pulling handles of all the doors, and then whichever one's open, that's the ones that get stuff taken out of. So it's kind of throughout the entire division, to be honest with you. So that's why the best thing to do is always keep your car locked, and if you have well, try not to keep valuables in your car at all. But if you do, keep them hidden. So then if people are trying to look, and because people will like case out cars too to look in and see if they see cash or something valuable, they're much more likely to target that vehicle. So basically hide in the stuff or just not leaving it in there at all. Always keep the cars locked and try not to park it like in a dark space. If you can park it at night in a more well-lit area, that's something that deters crime a lot. So just little stuff like that. Try not to make yourself a target. That can help out.
and also I want to know if you can touch on something that's kind of it seems to be something that happens here. I would assume in other southeast or south parts of Dallas, or maybe all over
Mhm.
Dallas, but there's a lot of residents that hesitate to report problems because I either believe nothing will happen or fear retaliation,
Mhm.
and they want to do it anonymously. And we've had actually people reach out to Urbandale United to report a problem that they saw, but they don't want to call.
Mhm.
How can you ease their fear about being anonymous in those type of situations?
Yeah, that one's a tough one because in most crimes we do need a complainant to be able to prosecute and to be able to go forward with like warrants or charges or stuff like that. If it is something that they saw and they're reporting later, they can always come to like a police station, and that way, that's another way that if they want to avoid people seeing like police at their house, or they want to avoid people seeing them talking to police, they can always come either to Bear Street, which is where our NPO office is, or they can go to any of the Dallas police substations and report a crime. They also not so much the assault type crimes, but like the property crimes. You're able to report those things online. So there is like a more of like a property type report. Those can be reported online, which no one's seen them talk to police in a case like that. But
Okay.
that is a common problem in a. Uh, I understand a lot of people don't they want to remain anonymous, but the hard part is in order for us to be able to proceed, we have to have a complainant.
Okay. I think just touching on that same type topic, there's a
Mhm.
lot of times when residents call the police about something, maybe it's a noise complaint, maybe it's gunshots or whatever, but there's never really any follow-up to that. So
Mhm.
realistically, what can residents, neighbors expect after submitting a report? How can they determine whether it was assigned, investigated, or closed?
Mhm. Yeah, so it all kind of depends on the call, right? So if someone calls and they end up speaking with police and they make a report, the reports go to detectives and those get followed up with by the whatever detective it would be, right? So
Okay.
if your car got broken into and you talked with police, a property crimes detective would reach out to you, or if you got assaulted, an assault detective would reach out to you. If you're just calling 911 about like loud music or something, there is times I know sometimes those, depending on how busy it is, sometimes it does take us a while to get out there. But what I've noticed some people do is when they call 911 and talk to the operator, they can tell the operator, be like, hey, I want police to follow up with me. And whether that be by, I want a call back or I want them to knock on my door. They can tell the 911 operator that they would like that. And then they basically, when we get the call, the 911 operator, they put all the notes on that and we can read those notes and see like, okay, this person, they want to follow up on this. And that's something that helps out too.
Well, I've maybe it's just because there's a lot going on. There's every time that I have
Yeah.
called the police for whatever situation, the
Mhm.
operator will always ask me, "Do you want the police to contact you?" And I always say yes, and I give them my number and everything, but I never really
Mhm.
hear from them. So
Mm.
I don't know what I need to do in that situation. Do I need to, I don't know, call the same number, or how do I find out if that situation was resolved if I hear gunfire in the street next to mine or in the neighborhood?
Oh, okay. Yeah, in situations like that, basically anytime you call 911, basically an incident is created. Like when we get the calls, there's always an incident. Whether we do a report or not, there's always what the call type was, what officer responded, and then what notes they put on that incident. And that's something that goes into a database that can always be reached. So if you like remember what when you called 911 and like the address, any officer, they're able to pull it up and they can see kind of what happened. So if you did
Okay.
want to follow up, you actually could call any of the substations and they can look that up and they can see like the officer notes. They can see what officer went out, what they did, and all that kind of stuff.
We can call any station, even if it's not the
Mhm.
station from
Yeah,
which the officer came from.
you technically can because the database is all the same one. It'd probably be better to call the station that you're in, because they have more of a connection to it.
Mhm.
But technically, if you can put in you can put in the address to the database and it'll pull up all stations.
Okay. All right. Krista, do you have any questions, or is anyone reaching out to you with questions, or
Nope, that's it.
anyone? Okay. Does anyone else have any questions, or Brady? I know you have probably seen a lot. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Senior Corporal
Mhm.
Ekena. That really appreciate you being here and sharing that information, uh, and answering those questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Senior Corporal Ekena with the City of Dallas Police Department. So. Our next presenters, actually our last presenters, I guess what a lot of people came here for was about the City of Dallas Planning and Development Department. And we have Michael Wade and Patrick Blades here from the City of Dallas, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about this development that's happening, I assume, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, James and Krisa. We've just started reaching out to groups just to introduce what this is. So we're working on the Dallas zoning reform. I'll tell you a little bit about the department, introduce some colleagues. I actually have two colleagues here with us today. A little bit about what we do. I'll tell you what it is, what it isn't, and then how you can be involved and keep track moving forward. So just a couple of introductions. I'm Michael Wade. I'm Chief Planner of Code Amendments for the City of Dallas. So we have several chief planners. It doesn't mean I'm the top dog by any means. It's one in a hierarchy. And normally my day job is to go into the zoning code, and probably a lot of people here know what that is. For anyone watching on YouTube, I might go into it just a little bit, just in case. But we have a development code, and when we make changes and updates to that, my team handles those changes and updates. So I've got with me today Patrick Blades. He's the chief planner over community planning, and so he has joined today. Mostly, I'll be doing the song and dance in front of you, but Patrick has a great knowledge of Dallas, the different communities in Dallas, and if you've been involved anywhere over the last few years, there's a good chance you've run into Patrick, as he's helped communities develop land use plans and land use visions. Generally, that planning function comes before the zoning function. So Patrick and his team go out to a community, large or small. They say, you know, our community is kind of heading this way in terms of some housing, in terms of business, in terms of architectural design, some of these things. They work with Patrick and his team to formalize a plan, kind of a visioning plan, and then that's handed off to zoning. That's to me, that's to some other teams in the zoning division to turn it into updated regulations, land use regulations. So again, I'll get into zoning in just a minute. I also have Frankie Wilson with us today. He's from Zoe Communications Agency. They're just helping us out on the Dallas zoning reform project. So I'm happy to have them here. I have a PowerPoint that I'm happy to share if I can. And let's see. James or Krisa, I'm sending a request to be able to share my screen. I'm not sure who technically.
It
Chris is the
should be
host.
going through.
Okay.
I hit allow.
Let's
Let
see.
me know if it doesn't work.
It is working. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I don't have that permission, so.
Okay. So you should be seeing a PowerPoint now. I won't be
Okay, we
able
see
to.
it.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
I won't be able to see raised hands or anything going on in the chat while I'm doing this. So if I need to
Okay.
stop for some reason, please just verbally interrupt me. Feel free to. So here to talk to you about the Dallas zoning reform. Very basically, I didn't work this in as a slide, but I want to introduce what zoning is in the first place. There are a variety of codes that folks like Doyle have to go out and enforce every day. One of those city codes, as part of the city's legislative code, is the zoning code, or more broadly, the development code. That regulates what you can build on a property. More broadly, how can you use a property? So that might include, is it agricultural? Is it just open space, park space that's still within the realm of land use planning, land use regulations? So all of this is zoning. It has to do with how big can a building be? Sometimes it gets into where does the entrance on that building generally need to go? We try to keep it out of, you know, too intense of architecture, but we know that certain things about our environment, whether it's the natural environment or the built environment, do affect us. They affect the public. They affect our goals for our city overall, for our neighborhood, for our district, et cetera. So zoning was introduced into Dallas in the late 1920s. That's really when it became popular across the country. People were seeing some pretty nasty industrial uses going up near homes, something that unfortunately is still kind of familiar to us today. And they said, what if we design some regulations that managed how we use the land around the city? So fast forward, there have been some updates to the code. It's been used to some positive extents. It's also been used to some negative ways, depending on who's running cities, who's running the nation, et cetera. So we wanted to be able to enact our community's vision. Just recently, we adopted Forward Dallas 2.0. That's our city's comprehensive land use plan, and that was the great big community conversation about how do we want to budget our land generally? What do we want our neighborhoods to be in 20 years, 40 years, 60 years? What do we want to leave behind? And how do we use our land to manage a changing city, a city that's updating, that's evolving? People are moving, family styles are changing, et cetera. How do we use our land to accommodate that for the health for the prosperity, for the peace of everyone involved, including those people who aren't here yet. So that was Forward Dallas 2.0. It had themes such as environmental sustainability and resilience. It had housing choice and access, transportation and development. It talked through several themes, and then it designated different parts of the city place types. That is, again, just visionary styles of collections of places. And that's, excuse me if you hear the noise right out my window. Someone's got a brand new car, I guess. And so with this place type map, with Forward Dallas 2.0's map, this was the vision of how we use the land. Now that that's been adopted by City Council, we move into an implementation phase. And one of the implementation items is zoning, which is the actual law. How are we actually updating regulations to accomplish things that were laid out in Forward Dallas 2.0? So I'm going to run through just this portion of it, just the zoning reform portion of it. If there's some time left for questions, I'm happy to talk about zoning. Patrick was in all of the Forward Dallas project and I'm volunteering him, but he is great at answering questions about Forward Dallas as well. So let's move on with zoning reform. Zoning is the local law that controls what land can be used for, where and how large structures can be, how the property may interact with the land and surrounding properties. Obviously, we want folks to be able to exercise their freedom and liberty on their property. We also know that the way we live affects the freedom and liberty of people around us. And so this is just one way that we figured out how to live well together. Zoning enacts the comprehensive plan, and this is according to the state. You develop a plan, and then one of the implementation strategies is to actually have regulations. So that deals with land uses. Can a business go there? Can a home go there? Can two homes go there? It deals with dimensional regulations. How tall can a building be? How is it oriented on the lot? It also deals with approval processes, review processes. So if you are applying for a certain land use permit, let's say that you wanted to get a specific use permit to open a certain kind of business where normally other kind of businesses are allowed. It spells out how you apply for that, what criteria that's evaluated by, who approves it, and just all the steps that an applicant needs to go through. There are several bodies. I won't go through all of these, but some of the main bodies that we work with are the City Plan Commission and the City Council. The City Plan Commission advises the City Council on these land use management issues. Again, zoning in Dallas, adopted in 1929. We had major updates in the 40s, 60s, and the 80s. It's time for a major update. Historically, our themes have been separation, constraint, and rigidity. Make things be what we want them to be and stay that way forever. And we've realized that that is just not how societies always work. So our current code, again, the code from the 1980s, it's extremely complex. It's hard to understand even for us staff. So let alone just residents. Staff will open the book and you can work in the planning and development department for years and still find corners of it that you didn't know existed. It's kind of wild. It is too complex. It doesn't have to be this way. It's misaligned. Supports, again, separation, constraint, rigidity, instead of communities that flex and change, and resilience. So that is societal resilience, economic resilience, environmental resilience, et cetera. Outdatedness. It doesn't respond to today's housing, business, transportation, environmental preferences, et cetera. It's very much locked into 1980s, and frankly, it carries forward a lot of sentiments and preferences from the 40s and 60s. It's inaccessible. Just the way it reads, the way it's positioned within the city code, et cetera. It's geared toward a select few developers who kind of know how to work it, politicians or folks who have been deeply involved with the city for a long, long time, rather than the average property owner, even the average renter or employee who just want to learn more. And then it really lends itself to unpredictability and pretty excessive politicization. It requires really a great deal of discretionary approvals by the City Plan Commission or City Council. It is not very standardized. It's not very transparent. Staff do our best to let people know exactly what to expect. When you introduce a lot of these discretionary processes that are up to the City Plan Commission, up to the City Council about what you can do with your property, it just introduces lots of unpredictability. You don't know how long until you can start building what you want to build. And the same goes true for your neighbor's property or the property down the street that you're paying attention to, and that really matters to you. You don't know exactly what the process is going to be like. So these are some of the reasons why we're updating the zoning code. Introduce Dallas zoning reform, simple, clear, future ready. These are the guiding principles that we're going for. We want streamlined regulations that reduce unnecessary complexity. We want clear rules that are understandable by everyone, not just specialists. We want it to be future ready. We want it designed for the Dallas we're becoming, not the Dallas of yesterday. So quick introduction to staff working on it. Of course, our department director is Emily Liu, and our deputy director, Dr. Andrea Udrea. They are sort of the high-level champions steering the ship. The project managers, I'm one, I'm down at the bottom, Chief Planner Michael Wade. We've also got our Assistant Director of Zoning, Megan Weimer, and Planning Manager, Lawrence Aguth III. And then, of course, subject matter experts from all over the city are weighing in. Our consultants, Camiros, are the national consultant that we're working with who are actually drafting it. So, we pour in all of our hopes and aspirations, our deep understanding of the current zoning code, City of Dallas, et cetera. Same goes for all the stakeholders and anyone who is adding any comments. And I'll just say this right now, I'll say it a few more times. You can go online right now and leave comments at www.dallaszoningreform.com. And I'll probably repeat that too often just so it gets stuck in your brain. But you can go on right now and deliver comments. And then we also have Zoe Communications Agency, who are our engagement consultants and honestly are just grabbing us nerds who are sitting at our desk too long, lifting our heads up and saying, hey, remember, speak in normal language for once, would you? So we appreciate Frankie and his team for that. I'm just going to go over a couple of the goals that we have, a couple of the implementation strategies, and then a couple of events that we've got coming up, and that'll be that. Happy to take questions afterwards. So our goals, again, outside of just the simple, clear, future ready, let's break it down. We want to implement Forward Dallas 2.0. That's the council adopted land use management plan, land use management budget for the city. And so that sets the direction for everything else that we do. We want to organize the code as user-friendly. It needs to be predictable and consistent. Right now, not only do we have a code that divides the city up into districts, divides those districts up into different kinds of properties and land uses and all of these different things, we also have 1,100 customized codes called planned development districts, if you've ever heard that term. Normally, a city has a handful of these. They're just meant for a one-off situation where someone comes in with a really wild idea. The standard code just can't handle it, but it brings so much benefit to the city, neighbors, et cetera. It's meant to really handle the miscellaneous things. Our community has been using planned development districts for decades now, just to get around how Byzantine our current code is. So it's not, because people are bringing wild ideas, they're, really doing off the wall the latest and greatest. It's just because our code is so outdated, they have to create a planned development district. So we have these tiny customized districts all over. That just makes it even harder to organize, harder to understand, harder to keep track of. So getting a little more into the substance, we want to create and preserve opportunities for diverse and affordable housing. Housing is a major issue right now. The cost of housing, where is it? What is it like? What are our neighborhoods like? So we want to address that. We want to promote sustainable and resilient development. So quick note about zoning. This doesn't get into building code. Building code is what materials is your house made of? What is the fire separation between one wall and the building beside it? How wide does a doorway need to be? Those are deep building code issues. Zoning code is one level up. But we can get into how much concrete are you putting down in your front yard for that next driveway? It can get into how are we adding trees to our city's tree canopy, and how are we preserving trees in the city's tree canopy? So we can touch on sustainability in a really big way, environmental sustainability. We want to integrate objective design standards and just objective standards overall into the districts. I'll also pause as I think about all of the things that Patrick and I deal with day to day. In zoning is divided up into these districts. So they have names and they have intents, and they have intents as in purpose statements, and they have characteristics. So you might have one that's built more toward housing. Houses need to be a certain size. Yards need to be a certain size. You have another one that's geared more toward business. The businesses need to be a certain size, etc. So when I say a district, we just have these different clusters of characteristics. So we want to integrate objective standards so that it's more understandable. We want to reduce dependence on special approvals. Again, all of that, the very highly politicized discretionary processes that can be, frankly, pretty opaque. And then we want to increase efficiency of approval processes. We want government to work well for everybody, from the applicant to the neighbor who's following it, to an entire neighborhood who's cheering on the property or is feeling cautious about it. Everyone should know what to expect, and the government should be able to achieve the desired effect well, whatever it is. So some very general levers that we can pull. Right now, our zoning code is one chapter of our broader city legislative code. The city legislative code is chapters 1 through, I think, 62 right now. The zoning code, the development code, is just one chapter in that. We're going to write a new one. It's going to completely replace the zoning code that we have. Again, we're going to lean into logical, comprehensive organization, fine-tune these zoning districts that I talked about, updating standards, measurements, landscaping, approvals, reviews, etc. We want to expand and enhance design standards. We want the new homes that are built around us to make us feel like dignified members of the neighborhood. That's really important. We want to clarify administration. So again, those reviews, subdivisions, etc. Integrate illustrations and web-based and turn this into a web-based experience. So it's no longer just scrolling through a PDF. And then updating affordability incentives and environmental protections. These things are discussed in decent length at Forward Dallas 2.0. So this project has been divided up into a few phases. Phase 1 and 2, honestly, are sort of the pre-phases. They happened over a couple of years, and they started right when, and honestly a little bit before, Forward Dallas 2.0 did, just so we could make sure that we had the funding for it, we had the resources for it, we had the staff for it, etc. So the project kickoff and initial analysis, and then the code diagnostic. We brought in Camiros, the consultant that is writing the code, and they got down and dirty with daily users of the code, practitioners. What do you think about the chapter organization? What do you think about how this is phrased? Those things that really rival, my understanding of the code at times. Right now, we are preparing the draft code, and this has been a whole lot of back and forth between the consultant Camiros and staff. Even last week, Patrick and I were locked in a room in the Central Library for 3 days, all day, hashing out zoning districts. And that's not even getting into subdivisions yet, not even getting into transportation issues, not even getting into landscaping issues, all of these. So we're in the middle of a lot of work. We've got more to come, but we're in a very exciting time. So we expect this to last into October. The next phase, and I'll wrap it up here. The next phase is going to be releasing the first draft to the public. We expect this to happen in October. We're leaving it in October as we sort of work through all the nuts and bolts of the code with Camiros right now. We want to spend several months, October, and we're just saying winter of 2027. Might be December, it might be January, might be February, whatever we need to make sure that everyone can understand the the very basics of zoning. It's a very rich craft. No one is expecting anyone to have a degree in it, but we want everyone who wants to look at this to be able to look at it, give a comment. We will be going to different parts of the city, having open houses. Anyone can come and learn about it, ask questions, give their comment, etc. Take in all of that, prepare and revise the hopefully final draft of the code. We don't want to do this too many times. Honestly, as soon as we create this code, it will be out of date. So it's one of those projects where there's really no end. So at a certain point, you create the final draft, and then you take it up through the adoption process. This is going to happen in 2027. That will involve the Zoning Ordinance Advisory Committee. It's a subcommittee of the City Plan Commission, and then the City Plan Commission, and then the City Council. Gobs and gobs of public hearings. Huge amount of opportunities to have input if you didn't already during during the winter review, or come and have input again. So we are looking forward to having this adopted by the end of 2027, hopefully could be into 2028. Again, this is a once in a generation opportunity to address these. So going from talking about once in a generation timeline to tomorrow, we are kicking off what we're calling the Zoning 101 tour. This is in partnership with Dallas colleges, so that's Richland, Eastfield, etc. These will be in-person experiences where you can show up and just have an introduction to how zoning impacts your life. For a lot of these, it's going to be a topic. So getting around Dallas, keeping Dallas creative, building healthy neighborhoods, etc. We have our first one tomorrow. It's called How Dallas Takes Shape. This is Dallas City Hall. We're just having it in the City Hall lobby. We'll have 2 sessions, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then another at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. There will be light refreshments. There will be a little bit of music. It will be a self-paced walkthrough. There will be staffed booths. Come and learn about zoning. Now these, as the name suggests, these are geared toward newbies to zoning, total novices. Come and learn what zoning is. How does it interact with Forward Dallas 2.0? What do you think about it? We really want to begin this conversation, and there will be lots of opportunities for you to leave a comment. There will be prompt questions just to get you thinking. There will be folks to talk to. We're looking forward to a good time. I'll be there, be doing a lot of these same hand motions, just talking about zoning. And I think it's going to be really fun. There are not a lot of zoning occasions where you have a DJ playing in the background. So happy to welcome you there. I'm going to leave this up for just a minute. If you want to go to DallasZoningReform.com, scan the QR code. If you do want to come tomorrow, we'll ask you to RSVP. And actually, I think, let me grab that URL and I'll put it in the chat for you to RSVP. But that's my spiel. Again, for the Zoning 101 tour, these are not the only chances to interact with the zoning reform. This is an introduction until we release that first draft. When we release that first draft, we're going to go gangbusters and be all over the city. So
Wow.
That's what I've got for you today. Let me
Thank you.
unshare the screen really quick and I'll turn it back over to you.
That was, I loved your PowerPoint. That was really good. It was really simple to understand. I was just kind of hoping that we would be the first conversation on the tour. Back to the timeline, because that was really well. I like the simplicity of that. In the past, Chris and I, and also I think Mark, you probably have attended some Forward Dallas conversations. Several of them, actually. I didn't know anything about Forward Dallas 2.0. These must have been the 1.0 meetings. But if I were to blend all those questions that you probably get yelled at, it seems to me that it seems that like residents don't seem to have or are kind of concerned about having a say And the question that I originally wrote down, which was which parts of the zoning reform are still open to public input and which decisions have already been made. But according to that timeline, looks like, would you say like winter would be the?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
it's the drafting portion is we've extended that a little bit because we're working with a couple of national groups on certain parts of this. So, for example, we're partnering with the Enterprise Land Use Advisors. They're a national nonprofit that advises cities on housing issues. So we're working with them on a housing incentive to build in, that kind of a thing. So if anyone here has heard us say, oh, it's going to be July, we've extended it because some great opportunities have come this way. So all that to say, yes, we're looking at October into probably January. Honestly, we're probably going to get to the end of that public comment period and realize, we had made a plan, we learned a lot, we need to extend this. And so it could even be a month or two longer than we're thinking about right now. It's a good question. What kinds of input can folks still have? So Forward Dallas 2.0. And if you interacted with that process in the last few years, that was the Forward Dallas 2.0, even if we shorthanded it to just Forward Dallas. There was a Forward Dallas plan that was adopted, I think in the year 2000 or 2001, and that's why this is 2.0. It was an update. So if you interacted with that, that was the place where communities came together, gave their visions, gave their dreams. Of course, at the staff level, we hear everything under the sun, including lots of conflicting hopes and dreams from different people. And so I came in kind of at the end of that process, and I want to treat it with sensitivity, but the staff who were there were making a massive lift of bringing Dallas into the 21st century. This kind of planning is something that most other big cities do regularly. So we introduced the first future land use map, which was this place type map. They consolidated a whole lot of opinions, I think found a great middle ground for a lot of that. And you're right, that was the visioning portion. Now that we get into the technical portion, what kind of role can folks play? It gets harder. It's blatantly, the zoning code is a technical code. Most of us don't work with it every day. It will make sense if people feel like they are having a hard time understanding what's going on and weighing in.
Yeah, and James, like Michael, if I can jump in real quick.
Sure.
So again, Patrick Blades, I'm a different chief planner than Michael, the chief planner.
Okay.
But one of the examples that I would give here in Urbandale is like in what we would call kind of like downtown Urbandale, like between the school and the park. They're
Okay.
military, right? We heard from y'all that, hey, look, it's okay if James or Michael runs his shop there and has, a 3,000 square foot warehouse. That's fine. That's okay because it can work within that space. It's not okay if he had a 50,000 square foot warehouse. However, right now our zoning code treats both of them the same. And so like this is an implication where like, no, those are different. And what we heard is those are different types of land uses. And so we need to rewrite our code to say, look, that smaller place, it's more for, a plumbing contractor that might work in certain conditions. The big Amazon fulfillment center, which right now is the same land use, shouldn't be the same thing. And so that's just a simple example, like in Urbandale, of like taking what we heard and then saying, okay, that's what's in Forward Dallas. We need to make that difference. Now Michael's coming in through and being like, okay, well, let's get down into those details and let's start that zoning code so that it's more reflective of what we heard in Forward Dallas.
Okay.
Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate
thank
that.
you, Patrick. Yeah.
It's a good example. Folks will come in and we may interpret, oh, the plumbing shop is okay. That's 10,000 square feet. And the community comes back and says, wait, we were thinking 3,000 square feet. Something like that where we're dialing it in and then handing it back to y'all and saying, hey, is this what you meant in the Forward Dallas conversation?
Okay. I have to ask this, just being a voice of the community, because I know a lot of people are probably kind concern about, I'm talking about longtime residences, and I think you've probably heard this before. They're scared they're going to put like a multi-story, multi-family, several story high right next to their home, which doesn't make sense to me. But you've heard something like that, those fears before, right?
Sure.
How do you explain that to people to kind of remove that fear?
I'll take a crack at it. I'll turn it over to Patrick, and I don't know if either of us will 100% relieve that fear, because what we're doing with land use planning and the zoning codes is finding that balance between what people can do with their property and what communities are looking for in their community. And so the first thing that I would say is go to that place type map in Forward Dallas 2.0. And so Patrick, while I'm talking, I don't know if you can pull up a URL to share in the chat, but there is a website, and I'm happy to bring it up another time if we need to. That will give the general direction. So what Patrick and his team were trying to do was capture what does the community envision generally in this area. And that could look a few different ways based on how the zoning code is updated. Right now, a lot of zoning is actually more permissive than we think it is. So if I'm correct, Urbandale, some other neighborhoods like that, mostly single family homes, 1-story, maybe 2-story, zoned districts like TH or MF or MU, where actually a property owner can already do more. Even our single family districts allow, 30, 36 feet. So they allow pretty tall buildings already. In TH, that's the townhome district. So that allows more than single family homes already. These are things that are looming. And so the point of the zoning reform isn't to come in and just upzone everything and let developers have their way. The point is to match our code with tools that allow property owners and communities to build what they want and what the community needs. Patrick, how would you address that?
Yeah, and I've been trying to pull up, for whatever reason, I cannot pull up the Forward Dallas, the digital map. I can just pull up the static map, which gets a little blurry. But in short, Urbandale, Parkdale, that entire area, on the map, it's all the same color. It's all yellow, and that yellow is just for the neighborhood. That's intended to be like a neighborhood. It's not intended to be super intense. It's not intended to be mid-rise or high-rise. It's just a neighborhood.
Okay.
And that neighborhood has, like we talked about, you've got that, the stuff along Military, you got the old movie theater, like you've got that stuff in there, but that stuff all feels like it's just part of the neighborhood. And so the zoning districts, although some of them might be a little bit different in that area, in Urbandale, are all stuff that are supposed to be for the neighborhood. It's mostly housing, although you do have a little bit of like, commercial that's mixed in there. As far as the, oh my gosh, Forward Dallas is going to allow a 8-story tall building right next to my house. It can't do that. And I don't believe the zoning reform, at least the stuff that I have seen, changes those residential districts to allow that type of house or like that huge structure. Because it's just not what we heard in Forward Dallas, is that people are like, no, I don't, I moved to my neighborhood because I wanted to be next to a bunch of housing, not next to a bunch of high rises. What we did here in Forward Dallas was there is a place and a time for those things. And usually that place is along our bigger streets. That's where, the bigger townhomes or the taller buildings, that's where those things should probably go. So as we're looking at some of the bigger streets, and again, in Urbandale, it's really not that applicable because Military Parkway, it's not, the street itself is not conducive to that just because of, the parkway and then all the space between and then the side streets. So, for y'all in your community, I don't think there is I don't see a lot of implications where the zoning reform would create something that's taller than right now can already be built. And so I think, yes, there are some places where the zoning allows like a 40-foot tall building, just because that's what our shopping center zoning district allows a 56 tall building right now. Yeah, They haven't been built, but right now those are the things that are allowed by right that we're weaving into the code to say, okay, how do we rewrite this zoning district to say, yes, these are the types of things that can be built here, but maintaining some of those height consistencies, even if people haven't built already to what's on, the zoning that's on the ground.
Okay.
And,
oh, no,
and
that
James,
explains that. Yeah, thank you.
James, can I add two quick things? One, I put in the chat a map hub that is working. It
Yeah, I
will
saw
show
that.
you zoning. It'll show you the forward Dallas place types, but that's not linked to the actual plan. Below it, I put a link to the actual plan, but we got a notification from our ITS, our Information Technology Services Department today that our entire city webpage is down. So that includes our hosted Forward Dallas plan. Unfortunately, what timing? So they've estimated that will be back up at 10 p.m., but we're looking forward to that along with you. This is the official link, though.
Perfect. Thank you. It looks like Grady has a question. What kind of environmental protections do you expect will be included in the new code?
Sure. I'll take that in two directions. A big one for neighborhoods, spacing requirements for heavy industrial uses. As we're translating place types into districts, making sure that zoning districts that allow heavy industrial uses aren't near low density and honestly just any residential area as well as we can. So that's kind of, and then a lot of buffering, so landscape, trees, bushes, yards, enhanced environmental protections for those industrial uses too. So we're looking at all of that as far as sort of the relationship between heavy industrial uses and residential areas. Another way, and that might have been what you were looking at if you were thinking about sort of actual conservation, kind of protecting the environment. We are incentivizing the use of green stormwater technology. We're disincentivizing the use of pavement. So we're actually adding on a maximum amount of properties, residential and business, that can be impervious, that can be pavement. So it needs to be pervious, needs to be grass, needs to be pervious pavers, some of these other things. We're exploring, and I'm hoping that we get this done for this code reform, if not a follow-up project, implementing new urban forest canopy conservation tools. So this is something that's extremely complicated. We've already got our Article 10 that incentivizes new development to factor in trees, factor in a good amount of sort of natural elements, but we want to actually take some of our great urban forests. I didn't know this, but the city of Dallas has technically the largest urban forest of any major metropolitan city. And it's just south of Dallas right there. We want to protect that. Believe it or not, even with our current regulations, we're not able to add back the same amount of trees that we're losing, which can be tough. So those are a couple of directions to your question.
Okay, that was really great. I had a question about in Urbandale, and I assume other parts of Dallas as well, but we have a lot of vacant or underutilized properties that we would like to see improve. I guess everyone would like to see them improve, but how would the new code encourage responsible redevelopment without reducing setbacks, the green spaces, parking, or other protections that existing homeowners rely on? Does that make sense?
It does, and you're touching on one of the difficult things because a lot of those vacant properties are vacant for a reason. We know that land prices, housing prices have been skyrocketing, and the zoning code, unfortunately, is different than our housing department, our economic development department. They get the fun stuff of handing out the money and incentivizing. Hey, well, here is subsidy for this. Here's the kind of thing that we want to have. The zoning code, I call it the art of no. We either say no or we don't say no. And so if the current rules are already adding up to an environment along with just macroeconomics, along with politics, along with anything else that is keeping the private sector and private sector development from developing on those properties, zoning by itself is likely not the tool unless you simply make it more permissive to incentivize development on those properties. Again, our housing department, our newly formed housing and community empowerment department, economic development, they have tools to actually give money to certain things. I will say, and this is something else I wanted to mention earlier, the state government and federal government have been very active on housing lately. And so one of the, I think it was the recent Road to Housing Act at the federal government level, recently adopted, is instructing municipalities or is preparing financial incentives for municipalities to create programs like pre-approved housing programs. That's something that we're already starting on, but basically the city adopts home plans, literal building plans. We run it through as many of the approvals as we can without knowing exactly what property a home will be on. And then it's cheaper for someone to come in and say, I'd like to do that home. It's been reviewed by folks who know community preferences. It's been reviewed by architects. It's been reviewed by the permitting folks. I'd love to do that home on that property. It's cheaper and it's faster for them. So that's one example of how planning and development is working to get some of those vacant lots built upon. But again, zoning, it's the fun art of no. Either we're saying no or we're not saying no. And there's only so much that the zoning code can do to actually produce new buildings.
Okay. And how will the zoning assigned to individual properties automatically change, or will nearby property owners still have to request rezoning through the usual public process? Like every piece of property in Dallas, has a zoning designation. That zoning determines things, like the property can be residential, commercial, or how tall a building can be. If I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of residents that want to have a say in what happens, and what would be the best process for that?
Sure.
I guess what they're trying to say is that there's a lot of people that have asked me, like, do we get a public notice for property owners? Do they get a mail, or is there public hearings? How do they find out more about that information? Would you say it's in the links that you send, or?
Yeah, the number one place is www.dallaszoningreform.com.
Okay,
I feel like a
right.
salesperson.
Yeah.
Happy to say it more times if we need to. That's a start. You can go up to the top. There's some menu items at the top. I think actually on the homepage, you can just scroll to the bottom. There's an email list that you can sign up for. So the number one way is that we're just blasting out all of the events and updates on this project to that email list. So that's a huge way. I'm kind of tracking back through your question. So at the beginning, you asked, will it update automatically, or do property owners will they need to go through a rezoning process? So mostly they will update automatically to the new district. This is going to be a totally new array of districts, to the new district that's most like the district that they have out of the new tools. We have, Patrick, do you know how many lots we have in Dallas? Is it
So it's
82,000 or?
No, it's far more than that. So there's about for the residential non-multifamily, it's about 225,000.
And that's just single family homes.
Yeah. And what I would also say, James, to your question, so the zoning reform will happen. It's not going to change somebody's house to like an industrial district. Like, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
If somebody did want to do that, the process is still the same. Everybody, everyone within, 500 feet gets a mailer. It's a public hearing. If someone wants to go, and build, a big apartment building at these locations, like it's still that same process.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
No, that's what I think that was what I was trying to get at. I was trying to ask, is the process still the same? Like, because it sometimes to a lot of people, it sounds like that Dallas is rewriting the entire development code. And if you're rewriting all the rules, could my property zoning or change? Could could something be built next door? The zoning laws for that area be changed automatically? Could a street or single family homes suddenly allow duplexes or townhomes? Could a nearby commercial property gain new development rights or parking?
Well, right. And that's why I'm saying it will automatically change, but it's not going to change major character. So it's not going to go from residential to industrial, that kind of a thing. But it will automatically update to the new district that is most similar to what's there. So again, this is just a matter of equivalencing it. You know, I don't want to say it's little more than renaming it. Some things will change, but we're trying to draw one-to-one equivalencies. And yeah, absolutely. For this process, it will be citywide levels of notifications. We're not going to be able to send a letter to every single home. It's going to be a matter of online updates, that kind of a thing. However, when your neighbor wants to change their property to allow the 80-story building, it's exactly the same process. Everyone will be notified just like they are now, et cetera.
Okay, that's my last question. Does anyone else have any questions, or should we wrap this up? I know you got a lot of things going on. Krisa has.
Well, I was going to point out, Grady had a question in the chat, and Grady, you're a person after my own heart, because I live over in Little Forest Hills and dealing with the exact same thing, that now we're just going to be called Little Hills because we have no more trees because the developers keep knocking down all of our trees. But that is one of the things that has been brought up, and that I would really strongly encourage you to, you know, go to the website Michael's talking about, provide that input, because that input is a step that then our elected and appointed officials see, that then allow us to, you know, do some of the things that you're talking about.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for chiming in here, and Mr. Wade, you did a phenomenal job explaining things. It was all really well. Krisa, do you have anything to add, or?
No, just remember to go to our website to look at things that are going on in Urbandale and join us for more meetings like this.
Yes, and we'll post all this information later on and share all the links. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I'm not sure who all is still here, but Michael, Patrick, y'all did a phenomenal job with the PowerPoint. It was easy to understand. Thanks for answering all of our questions. I think you did a phenomenal job of doing that as well, and answering the questions of those in the sidebar there. So as far as this Zoom meeting, I think we're going to close here and let everyone get on their way. Thank you all for coming out, being here tonight with Urbandale United. And it's a lot of great information that not only just affects Urbandale, but also all over Dallas. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and wish you well. Good night, everybody. This is going to conclude our Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.